And now we welcome Marek Matusiak, project coordinator for the Israel-Europe project from the Center for Eastern Studies. Good afternoon and welcome to TVP World.
Good afternoon, thanks for having me.
Well, so we are in a situation where the whole world is looking to see whether Israel will retaliate after the events of this weekend.
And in what form?
And in what form, exactly. And we have Foreign Minister Cameron and Foreign Minister Baerbock in Israel and visiting also other countries in the Middle East. What are your observations to date and how fruitful do you think this visit will be?
Well, the truth is that, of course, we don't know what Israel is going to do. We are not privy to the internal deliberations of the Israeli political and security establishment. But what we can say for sure that after the Iranian strike, Israel finds itself in a very advantageous position. It was the attacked party, and therefore it has every right to define what's its response going to be. Of course, the West, its European partners, the United States are trying to influence its decisions, trying to persuade the Israelis not to respond or to downscale their response. But Israel has the sovereign right to decide what this answer is going to be. And as I said, it's very advantageous. The Israelis, who are very effective, very good diplomats, can use this threat, this inflated threat of a very powerful strike, also as a very useful bargaining chip with their Western partners. They can say, okay, maybe we are ready to downscale our response somewhat, but there are certain things that we want in return. That's one reason why I find this situation advantageous for the Israelis. The other aspect of this entire situation is that we are not focusing on Gaza right now. We are discussing, deliberating what Israel's response may be, but we are not discussing the situation in Gaza, Israel's military actions in Gaza, famine in Gaza, the violent actions of Jewish settlers in the West Bank. All this seemed to have a little bit fallen off the agenda. Our focus has entirely shifted to this direct Israeli-Iranian military confrontation. So while we don't know what future will hold, I think Israelis find themselves in a very good spot right now.
That's a very interesting point. I just wanted to follow up on your points in regards to Israel's sovereign right to decide what to do next. Some say that this very special relationship that Israel and the US share is also very interesting. And some say that actually it's the US who will have the final say as to what Israel will do. What are your comments on that?
No, I definitely disagree. I think actually when it comes to the subject of especially the direct military confrontation between Israel and Iran, the Americas, the United States, room for maneuver is actually very, very limited. As long as we were focusing on Gaza, then the Americans could try to influence the Israelis. There were some unprecedented speculations as to the American military assistance may be becoming politically conditioned as a result of Washington being very unhappy with Israelis' actions. There, the United States had much more room for maneuver, much more space to try to influence what the Israelis are doing and what the Israel's next steps are going to be. The moment when it became not about Israel and Hamas and it became about Israel and Iran, it became a direct military confrontation between Israel and Iran. The Americans have actually very little choice but to stand behind their Israeli ally. I don't think that the public opinion in the US and the political establishment in the US would accept any wavering on the part of the White House, on the part of the Biden's administration, while Israel is being directly attacked. So I think that actually it's the Israelis who have leverage upon the Americans right now and not the other way around.
Right, but there is a little bit of nuance in that as these attacks were unfolding and in the immediate aftermath, the U.S. Came out and explicitly said that it would not be taking part in any retaliatory strikes as it had taken part in the defense of Israel. So that also leaves Israel, and I imagine this is why you're saying it's in an advantageous position, because now it's free to do whatever it deems appropriate. And then again, you hear the calls for Israel having the right to defend itself, and the United States and other partners will be there in the event that Israel is again maybe attacked as a result of that retaliation. So we have kind of an ongoing cycle.
Of course, I agree with you. That's of course true that the American administration has said very clearly they are not going to take part in any Israeli retaliatory strikes upon the Iranians. That's for sure. But if Israel does retaliate in a very powerful, ostentatiously powerful way, and then then they will leave the Iranians no choice but to answer to Israel's retaliation. So the cycle of strikes will be perpetuated, and then the Americans will have no choice but to defend the Israelis. So they, even if the U.S. Air Force is not going to take part in strikes upon Iranian either personnel or infrastructure, be it in Lebanon or in Syria or in Iran, then the U.S. may find itself in a position where it will have to defend its Israeli ally, even if they will be very unhappy with what the Israelis will do.
What do you think is the most appropriate reaction from Israel's point of view after this? I mean, the defense of Israel has been so successful with 99% of all these airborne projectiles being shot down, no significant damage to Israel. But Israel obviously doesn't want to sit idly by and allow this aggression to take place against it. So really, they're in a difficult position. How should Israel respond to this Iranian barrage of attacks on Israel?
I don't have a good answer to that, and actually the public opinion in Israel is very divided. The public opinion polls, the results of public opinion polls that I saw today suggest that the majority of Israelis themselves would be against a military response, or at least against a very powerful military response. But at the same time, there is a part of the Israeli military and political establishment who think that this may be the moment to actually strike Iranians very powerfully, because the Americans are committed, the Europeans are committed. Even, as you know, some Arab countries took part in thwarting the Iranian attacks. So there might be a temptation on the part of Israelis to actually do things that they wouldn't be able to, where international focus would not be so much concentrated on that part of the world, and the Americans and the Europeans would not be as militarily and politically committed to defending Israel against possible Iranian strikes as it is the case right now. But so as I'm saying, there are very different opinions on that in Israel itself.
Mm-hmm, indeed.
But from a strategic perspective, wouldn't it be better for Israel to take on this so-called win and enter perhaps a strategy of deterrence, as opposed to potentially bringing in this whole region into a wider conflict?
Well, as I'm saying, that's a values-based judgment, and I don't think we can objectively say that something is objectively better than another option. There are very different points of view on that, and I can use maybe Lebanon and Hezbollah as an example. When the war started, when Hamas attacked on the 7th of October last year, there was this great debate in Israel whether this is the moment to actually strike Hezbollah as well or not, because there was this sense that with the increased American military presence in the region, with two carrier battle groups moved by the Americans to the region, also Europeans moved some of their military assets to the region, the Israelis felt more secure, and some people within the military and political establishment felt that maybe this is the moment to deal with this threat that has been hanging above our heads for a very long time, which in the form of Hezbollah. Finally, Americans succeeded in persuading Israelis not to do anything major vis-a-vis Hezbollah. So since October, this was like a little bit of a tit for tat when Hezbollah was striking Israel. Israel was responding sometimes disproportionately, but this military confrontation was kept within certain certain limits, and I believe that this is the case mostly due to American pressure. And here we have to do with a little bit of a similar situation, when surely the temptation to change the equation in this long-standing confrontation with Iran is very present. The question is what sort of calculations will prevail in this situation.
Okay, Marek Matusiak of the Center for Eastern Studies, thank you very much for your time with us on TVP World.
Thank you very much.